2, 1.
Hello, U.S. history students. Mr. Deegan in the VidNote zone. It's lesson 1 of Unit 5, Learning Target. I will understand the causes of the U.S. Civil War, including the role of slavery as a primary cause. Here is a slave who has a raw back because he has been whipped many times. This treatment is inhumane. It is barbaric. You shouldn't treat another human being like that. You shouldn't own another human being. But the Civil War was caused because some people in the South, rich plantation owners, said, if slavery goes away, so does all of my money. So, thus the Civil War. Let's explore. The causes: mounting sectional tensions and a failure of political will led to the Civil War. These sectional tensions were between an industrial North and an agricultural South that relied on slavery. Give up, it's not worth it. Political will, people didn't want to give up their slaves. Cause number 1, sectional disagreements and debates over tariffs, extension of slavery into the territories, and argument over whether each state should decide on slavery for itself. What's a tariff? It's a tax or duty that a government charges on goods coming into or going out of their country. And this was the argument. There is one constitution in the United States. Should that be followed by all of the states, or should each state decide for itself on certain issues like slavery? That was the disagreement. Cause number 2 of the U.S. Civil War. It was a fight between Northern abolitionists versus Southern defenders of slavery. And here are 2 such abolitionists: William Lloyd Garrison, who wrote the newspaper The Liberator, and Frederick Douglass, who was a very great speech giver. What is an abolitionist? They are people who supported an end to slavery. Cause number 3 of the Civil War: the United States Supreme Court decision in the Dred Scott case. Here is Dred Scott. Nice bow tie. What was the Dred Scott case? Dred Scott was a slave who had lived with his owner in a free state before they moved to the slave state of Missouri. Scott argued in his court case that his time spent in free Missouri meant that he was free. The Supreme Court ruled in 1857 that no black, free or slave, could be a U.S., and this should say citizen, a U.S. citizen. Doesn't seem right. Isn't right. That's what the Supreme Court ruled in 1857. How did the Dred Scott case help cause the Civil War? Well, Northern abolitionists were very angry at this decision, and North-South tensions increased. These men and others were furious that this court case said a black is not a citizen. Cause number 4 of the Civil War. It was the publication of Uncle Tom's Cabin. Here's the book by Harriet Beecher Stowe. Here's the author. It was a book about a slave, Tom, who stands up for his beliefs about slavery. The book inspired Americans to become abolitionists. It was ahead of its time in terms of equality. Cause number 4. There was an ineffective, bad presidential leadership in the 1850s, in the decade before the Civil War. They were ineffective because they avoided the issue of slavery, which was dividing the country. The 14th president of the United States was Franklin Pierce, and the 15th president of the United States was James Buchanan. Both of these men avoided deciding on the issue of slavery. They were cowards. They would rather hide than tackle this issue head on. Cause number 6 of the Civil War, a series of failed compromises over the expansion of slavery in the territories. 1861 was the year that the Civil War started. You had, according to this chart, 19 free states, which are in blue on this map, and 15 slave states that are in red on this map, including the territories here, which are free and slave. So you have a divided country. Cause number 7 of the Civil War. The federal government owned a fort named Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina. Leaders in South Carolina demand that the federal government here pull out its troops. President Lincoln refuses to do so. This is my federal fort. These are my troops. They stay in the South. Well, South Carolina and its militia attacks the fort on April 13th, 1861. Shots fired. This is the start of the fighting of the Civil War. Here is where Fort Sumter is in southern South Carolina, and this is a painting that shows the South Carolina militia, there's the South Carolina flag, using cannons against Fort Sumter. You see off in the very distance, there's the American flag. So you have an American state that is attacking the American government. Civil War starts. Lincoln organizes an army. After South Carolina's attack on Fort Sumter, President Lincoln calls for federal troops to organize in 1861. There is the 16th president of these United States, and here is an example of a recruitment poster from New Hampshire. Down with the rebellion. Volunteers, all able-bodied men wanted to fight these rebels. Let's back up and ask ourselves, who was Abraham Lincoln? He was the 16th president, elected the 16th president in 1861, the same year the Civil War started. Heck of a first year. He said that the Union should be held together by force, if necessary. And he believed that America was one nation, not a collection of independent states. So you see here of a collection of states. He said that this Constitution binded us all together, and that these states had the right to make some decisions for themselves, but not all decisions for themselves. And we come to our summary question period. Please think of 2 questions that you'd like to ask about this lesson. Write them down, and when you're done, you are done with this lesson. I am Mr. Deegan. You are a U.S. history student, and you are done. See you next time.